Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today I am very excited to share with you my top picks for skincare and makeup products of 2022. I thought it would be the most fun to put these products together in a video with me applying them, and I also wanted to share with you my version of the Spotify yearly wrap up, but with like everything that's just like gone on through my mind and happened in life. I'm gonna share my wrap up of the year with all of you, my friends. So let's get right into this video. Before we can have a great makeup day, we have to really drive home and nail down our skincare routine. And this year has been a very interesting year for my skin. I look back at some videos where I see how the foundation's looking and I'm like, what's going on with this foundation? It looks horrible. And then it's like, oh, my skin wasn't doing that great that day. And this year we've had some major highs and lows with my skin. I've broke out more than I have in years. My skin has become more prone to becoming dehydrated. I feel like my skin isn't kind of producing as much oil, which that's normal. That happens as we get older. This year I turned 32. In a couple weeks I will be 33. So my skin is changing. It's not going to be as oily as it has been in previous years. So my skincare routine has kind of fluctuated over the year. I've tried a bunch of different products. I went back to one of my very first videos on YouTube, which was all about creating a more minimalistic skincare video. I've done two different versions of that video because in the past when I stuck with those products, my skin was in the state that it's now. It's happy, it's healthy, and makeup applies well, which is important to me. So first step in the routine is cleansing, and I bounce back and forth between two cleansers the most this year. The first one we're going to talk about is the one I'm currently using. This is the Aveeno Calm and Restore for sensitive skin Nourishing Oat Cleanser. This cleanser is lovely. It is a simple, no frills, milky gel cleanser. Is this the best cleanser for removing your very stubborn, hard to get off makeup and water resistant sunscreen? No. You like to follow it up with an oil cleanser or even a micellar water like Bioderma. But this cleanser, as well as my other favorite, which is one I've talked about since the beginning of my channel, the Roche-Posay Toleriane Dermo-Cleanser. They are both more lightweight, milky cleansers. This has a little bit more of a gel consistency, where the Roche-Posay is a little bit more milky. These are both really wonderful, and when I pair them with either of my favorite cleansing balms, which cleansing balms, I have ones I like. I don't really have anything I love that I feel like I have to mention as a favorite, but the ones I really enjoy are the Clinique Take the Day Off Cleansing Balm. Really like it. I feel it's expensive, and I don't know if that price is favorite worthy for me. It is a Japanese brand called Kose, and that is the Softymo Speedy Cleansing Oil, and I get that off YesStyle. I think you can also get it on Amazon in the US, and it's around $10. Really, really good, and if I had to choose a favorite, that would be my favorite first step or oil cleanser, but my second step cleanser is the one I rely on the most, and for that, the Aveeno as well as the Roche-Posay are my two favorites. I normally love a good active, and I still love a really good active ingredient like an exfoliating acid, vitamin C, or a retinoid, which could be like your Retin-A or any type of retinol product. This year I tried to switch off my prescription retinoid, and I went for one that we can only get in the US, and it's one of the custom blend products. And over the first few weeks it was great, but as I continued to use it, my skin was just getting progressively more irritated, but I wasn't having the typical signs of retinization, which is where your skin become inflamed, itchy, peely as your skin adjusts. I have been using a prescription strength retinoid for years, like at least 6 years, I think at this point. 6? Yeah, I think 6. I know how to acclimate a new retinoid. Went back to square one. I started off with once a week, twice a week, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. No matter what I did, no matter if I buffered it, if I didn't buffer it, if I gave my skin time to completely dry between products, my skin just kept getting irritated. So I stripped that out. Right now, I'm not using any actives, and my skin has gone back to a normal, healthy state. And for that, I am beyond happy. As far as my moisturizing step, which is something we need to do, our moisturizer is the step that helps distill moisture into the skin. It helps to prevent transepidermal water loss. And my favorite is a classic. This is the CeraVe Moisturizing Lotion. It says it's for normal to dry skin. My skin's more on the normal combination side. I found this lightweight. It's very, very similar to my other favorite, which is the moisturizing cream, which comes in the tub. I like this one because I feel like you get a little bit more mileage out of it. This lasts me for 8 months, so really, really great value. It's gentle. It does not have the niacinamide in it like the PM version does, which some people can find to sting. I like this one just because it's basic, and basic is not always a bad thing. The sunscreen I've been loving is one that I started using over the summer, and I just can't get enough. This is my second tube. I'm almost done with it. When I go back to the States this weekend, I need to get another tube. This is from Hero Cosmetics. This is the Force Shield Superlight Sunscreen with a broad spectrum SPF 30. It says it's a daily sunscreen for all skin types. And this is a all mineral or inorganic filter sunscreen, which has the inclusion of zinc oxide at 17.53%. It has this minty green accent to the packaging, and when you dispense it, it has a milky green tint. This milky green tint does a really nice job at neutralizing redness, which, as you can see, my skin is quite red, and without this sunscreen on, my skin is a lot more ruddy. I have already recorded this video once, and I was in the process of editing it. I wasn't happy. Currently, it is just after 11:15 p.m. when I'm sitting down to record this, and I applied my sunscreen this morning when I got up around 9 a.m. and then I applied it again at noon. So I've already got 2 layers of this on, and I just touched up my moisturizer before sitting down, so makeup glides on a little bit easier. But this sunscreen, I really enjoy it. I've seen mixed reviews for this on YouTube. I've seen some people say they love it with the normal to dry skin and with combination oily skin. I've seen people love this, but there's also some people with dry skin who say this is not hydrating enough. And then I've seen people with more oily skin saying this is too oily. That is why trial and error is so important. I really love this. I feel like it is a second layer of moisturizer. In the summer, I could use this without a moisturizer underneath, and I was very, very happy with it. For me, this has become my preferred non-tinted as far as having like a color pigment added to it. It's an all-around favorite, and the color correcting tint makes my makeup application life a little bit easier. And for hydrating my lips and adding a little bit of extra moisture under the eyes, I still love my CeraVe Healing Ointment. This has been with me since well before I started YouTube. I believe I started using this in 2016. If I'm not mistaken, it was either 2016 or 2017. This is your basic petrolatum base, petrolatum or mineral oil. It's not a scary oil. It is a skin protectant. It's inclusive. It helps to keep moisture in the skin, which if you've got areas that are prone to chronic dryness, like the lips, around the eyes, your cuticles, something like this is a wonderful product to have. And this huge bottle lasts me for over a year. I just started using this one, and my last bottle was, I can't even tell you, it was over a year old, and I finished it off with my cuticles, so I kept it next to my bed after I got this one. Under my eyes, it can feel a little greasy. It says it has a non-greasy feeling, but if you're someone who is more on that normal to oily side, it can feel a little greasy under the eyes, but the way my under eyes look nice and plump in the morning when I wake up is well worth it. All right, getting into makeup and our chatty portion. My favorite primer of the year has been the NYX Plump Right Back with Electrolytes. This primer is just so pleasant to use. Here's 2 pumps. It is a mid-weight jelly primer. You can see it's wanting to run down, and I just like using this all over the skin. It is smooth. It gives this bounciness to the skin. I really enjoy it. I use it on my face, on my eyelids, under my eyes. There's no fragrance. It doesn't sting. It doesn't make any pill. It is just a pleasure to work with, and it doesn't matter if I'm just using concealer, if I'm using a powder foundation or a liquid foundation. It is just a very easy primer to use, and I find it does have a little bit of a tackiness to it, but it's not as tacky as something like the Milk Hydro Grip Primer, which I'm not a huge fan of. I find that a little too tacky for my skin, but this one gives a little bit of tack while still feeling like it gives my skin an extra shot of moisture. And if you have any little flaky bits of skin, this also helps to smooth it down. So while I give my primer a moment to sink into the skin, let's take a moment and just start talking about this year. This year has been crazy. From January up until July, everything was so simple. It was so laid back. It was feeling like another kind of boring laid back year that was just normal everyday life. However, the end of July, we found out my mom had breast cancer, and that was a huge shakeup for all of us. And that's something I've talked about on my channel, and it threw a huge wrench into my mom's life as well as my family's life, because it's a very scary thing. And like many families, my mom is kind of like that pillar person. She's the one who takes care of everyone. She's the one who does everything, and something happening to her was terrifying for all of us. It was very, very scary, but thankfully, as of recording this video, her last chemotherapy appointment is set for December 27th, which that feels like such a huge bright light at the end of the tunnel. Now, this is not the end of the cancer treatment. After she finishes chemo, then we move into surgery, then we move into radiation. There's still some road to go for her. It feels like this journey is going to have a good outcome. And that is something that, you know, it's something I thank God for every single day, because it's just, yeah, that moment when I thought something could happen to my mom, it really scared me. I'm like, do I need to pack up everything and move back to Virginia? Because I will. Favorite concealer of the year, without a doubt, has been the NYX Bare With Me Serum Concealer. And the shade I wear is shade Light. A little bit darker, but it's the best match from the available colors. So mom's health was a huge scare this year, and for me it put a lot of things in perspective. It was something that I went back and forth with sharing on YouTube, because at that point I'd felt very friendly with you all. The comments were always great, everything felt very friendly, but in a way it still felt like we were just kind of like friendly computer friends. When I shared what was going on, that I was gonna be going back and forth between where I live in Toronto and my hometown in Virginia, I was worried that there would be some video interruptions, because at that point I can't remember if I was still doing 3 videos a week or if I had moved down to only doing 2 a week. I did another Get Ready With Me video, I shared what was going on, and it was that moment where I felt like things just really took a huge shift. It felt like we went from friendly YouTube friends to being friends. It was just such an incredible feeling. It was very hard to describe the feeling. It was just a very overwhelming feeling of community that I really had never anticipated on experiencing from YouTube. You watch those YouTube videos and you see people talking about their relationship with subscribers, and it's like, you're my friends, you're my family, I love you all so much. And as a viewer, I don't know if people are like me, but I was always like, oh, okay, that's nice. But there was always that level of kind of feeling like people are just saying things, because, you know, people talk. In my experience with that happening, I was like, oh my goodness, this makes sense to me now. People are tuning in to watch you. You develop feelings, and then that made me think about, you know, other people that I've watched throughout the years, and it's like, wow, this person does feel like a friend. I've never met them in person, but it feels like they're my friend. And when you think about it, if the average YouTube video is 20 minutes and they're posting once or twice a week, you're spending more time with that person that you're watching on YouTube than you are with some people in your real life. And then over that time, relationships can form. It can feel like you can feel connected with a person. What I experienced, it's like, wow, people are connecting with me the way I've connected with creators in the past. And it's such a interesting and wonderful feeling from the perspective of a creator. It's just wonderful. It leaves me almost speechless, because what a wonderful feeling it is. I used a little too much concealer. I used a full pump of the NYX Bare With Me concealer, so I'm kind of spreading it out like a thin skin tint. My skin doesn't look textured, it doesn't look heavy. You can still see my natural skin through, which is what I'm going for. I'm trying to spread this out as much as possible because I want to share with you my favorite foundation. If you know my way of applying makeup, if I'm applying concealer first, you've probably guessed that my favorite foundation of the year is a powder. And if that's what you're thinking, you'd be correct. I've loved several foundations this year, and the 2 foundations that stood out to me the most were the #1 de Chanel Revitalizing Foundation. I wear shade BR12, and the Laura Geller Baked Balance-N-Brighten Foundation in shade Porcelain. I really love the Chanel, but I have to say, when my skin wasn't looking its best, this foundation didn't always help it. If my skin was feeling rough and bumpy, uneven, if I had some intense flaring of redness, sometimes my beloved foundation didn't look its best, and sometimes I felt like I was better without wearing foundation. On the other hand, the Laura Geller Baked Balance-N-Brighten beautiful mineral powder. Late last year, this went viral thanks to TikTok, and I had picked this up because of my friend Leanna Dalton. She's a Laura Geller fan, and when we became YouTube friends, I saw her mention some Laura Geller products in her video, and this made me think about how years and years ago, my Grammy, who is a huge fan of QVC, she used to wear a lot of Laura Geller products. At one point, she'd given me a Laura Geller powder foundation because the foundation I was wearing back then was really heavy. And then she's like, here, if you're gonna wear makeup, try this. It's not so heavy. And I used it. I never thought anything about it again. So then last year when I purchased this again, it was like, oh, kind of like a memory lane walk down product, because it's something that my Grammy had introduced me to. So I was like, let's give it a go. And wow, I was like, my Grammy was onto something. I don't know if she still uses this. My mom does, and I was shocked. So when I went home for the first time, my mom had just began her chemotherapy appointments, and just me being the person I am and wanting to make sure that my mom is taking as good of care of herself as she could, I had gone up to her bathroom while she was away, and I had taken all of her makeup out of her makeup bag. And then that was fun in its own, because I'm looking at all this different stuff and I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, I just need to throw this away because I gave this to mom. I remember when I gave this to her and it is way past its prime. I didn't throw it away though. I set all of the expired makeup to the side, and then when she got home and she was feeling like it, we sat down and we went through everything together. And I was like, hey, this is old. This Urban Decay eyeshadow palette I gave you back in like 2012. It's time to probably let it go. We went through, we did some cleansing of her makeup collection, and then I cleaned up all of her brushes, and then I set her up with some of my favorite. I really love the Beauty So Clean. This is something that, it's a makeup sanitizer. So my Laura Geller powder foundation. If you have makeup products at home, all you would do is wipe off the surface. Same thing if you're using a cream, wipe over it, hold it about 6 to 8 inches away. 1, 2, 3, let it dry. And that will help kill some of the bacteria and germs that are living on your makeup products. That way you can cut down the stuff that's happening inside your makeup. And that's something that every time I go home now, the way it's been since August is I'm in Virginia for 2 weeks, I'm in Toronto for 2 weeks, and then back. So it's been back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And from where I live, it's about a 9.5 hour drive if I drive straight through. But you know, I stop, I take breaks, I have to put gas in my car, all of that stuff. So the drive ends up taking closer to 12 hours. So there's been a lot of time on the road. Once we tried flying, and that was not the most fun, just because once we got there, you can rent a car and that gets expensive. Or I could wait for my parents' car to become available, which that got really tricky because we never thought about what happens if they have something and they need to use both of their cars and then I have something to do. It's like, well, who's not going somewhere? So then that's when we decided it was just easier. My husband and I drove down, and it's fun. I know for us, one of our favorite things to do is when we're in the car for a long time, we have some of the best conversations, and then he has been such a great sounding board. For me and my YouTube channel, I do all of my own editing, I do my thumbnails, I do all of it. It's my project, it's my baby, and he's my sounding board. So when I have ideas, he is the one who I bounce everything off of, and then he puts everything into, he shows me the logistics side. He thinks about like the costs and everything, and then that's such a great thing to have an outside person to keep you in check with spending. And it's not to nitpick, it's not to be like, hey, you need to cut back your spending. It's like, here's what you're spending, how is this going to be sustainable for long term? And it's like, oh, so that has been really nice to have. And just like getting to talk, have sing-alongs, try new little restaurants on the way to Roanoke and back to Toronto. That has been a lot of fun. Highlighter, I'm going to be using another favorite. This is also from Laura Geller. Laura Geller as a brand has been something that's really surprised me over the last almost 2 years, but her products are just really, really good. This is the Laura Geller Baked Highlight in the shade French Kiss, and I'm going to use the Real Technique setting brush. This is something I had a little bit of a panic about a couple days ago, because I was looking online because I had linked it in a video, and then someone reached out and said that my link wasn't working. So I went out, I checked it out, and I'm looking through the Laura Geller website, and the shade as an individual was not available, and you can only find it in her little highlighting like wheel. So it has like French Kiss, French Vanilla, Portofino, and there's another shade, but it's basically like 2 of the matte highlights and 2 of the shimmery highlights. And that's nice, but I like just having the one pan. So I reached out to customer service and they let me know that the shade has not been discontinued. It is just currently out of stock and there is not a restock date, but if I signed up for their newsletter, they would let me know when it came back in stock. This highlighter, it is tiny, like it looks really small, but I use it every single day and my pan is still not flattening out. It feels like this is gonna be like one of those never-ending highlights. And as you can see, I am not delicate with how I apply it. I pick it up on my brush and then I just buff it into the skin where I want to add highlight. And since this has more of like a satin reflect to it, it never emphasizes pore texture. I mean, if anything, you can see my skin looks smoother with the makeup on than it does without. Now, there's some occasions where I do want to add a little bit more glow, a little bit of shimmer to the cheeks. When I want to do that, I've been loving this highlight. This is the highlighting powder from Chanel Chanel, and this is number 40 White Opal. It looks like this. You can see mine is looking a little grubby because I've used it so much. This is a product I have to thank my friend Lena. Her YouTube channel is Lena Lore, and it's so good. She has been on me. She's like, hey, you need to try this out. And anytime I would get a new highlight, she'd be like, did you try that one yet? I'm like, no, I finally did, and now I can see why she loves it so much. It is just beautiful. In the pan, it looks like your basic white highlight. However, it's almost like a white gold. It's almost like a cool toned, slightly yellowish white gold, but it has a blue, pink, and green shift to it. Those different cooler tones will help to offset that slightly warmer kind of yellow tone in the base, which creates this really beautiful neutral tone. And depending on your skin tone that you're applying this on, it can look a little bit warmer, it can look a little bit cooler. It is such a really lovely chameleon product, and Chanel is pricey, but it has taken me months to get my pan to look like this. And even though I've worn off the embossing, there's no dent, anything like that. This is gonna be one of those products that you pay a little bit more, but it will last you a long time. And much like my Laura Geller, I can apply this here on the cheeks where my pore size is slightly enlarged, but it doesn't emphasize it. Something else that's been really interesting this year as far as my makeup routine and things like that is I have stepped away from bronzer. And bronzer is something I have used and loved, and I've had this intense obsession with for years. But it's something that my friends in my real life would always call me out for, because I could take the time, I could blend my bronzers to look really nice, and my friends will always be like, I think that bronzer is a little dark for you. I think that bronzer is a little too orange for you. And then I finally found a bronzer that I really loved. It looked great on my skin tone, which is also from Laura Geller. This is the Laura Geller Baked Bronze and Brighten in the shade Fair, which I will apply. But when I got into seasonal color analysis, which is something we'll have to talk about after this, because that has been huge for me this year, I found out that with me being in the light summer category, which means I have a cooler undertone, my features are a little bit lighter, they're a little bit brighter, there's a strong influence of a white pigment in the base color, and my overall tone isn't the best suited towards shadowy shades, which we would commonly use for contouring. It made me think maybe there's a better product to achieve the effect I'm going for that isn't a bronzer, isn't a contour. That is when I reached for my MAC Studio Finish Powder Plus Foundation in shade N4. It was either my second or third video on my YouTube channel. So back to the very, very beginning. So back to January of 2021. This was what I used as like my foundation shade, but I felt like the shade wasn't just right. And I was making it work. I would lighten it up with other products. And then this year, on a whim, I picked up shade N3 and I applied that, and I'm like, oh, this is a better foundation match for me. And when it oxidizes, because MAC Studio Powder, it will oxidize, it's now in line with my neck, where this shade could get a little too dark. So then I started using it as like my bronzer color or bronzer contour color. It made my skin tone look more balanced. My features didn't feel muddy, they didn't feel stark. It was just like my skin tone was coming together. It was like this melange of different colors were becoming this one cohesive tone that just looked more realistic. I have been using this shade as like my base color for adding sculpture and dimension to my face. And with the shade being slightly darker than my skin tone, I'm able to contour, I'm able to add it around my hairline without things getting crazy or looking muddy, which is something I really enjoy. Because with my forehead, if we break my face into visual thirds, so upper third, middle third, and lower third, my upper third is the biggest because I have a large forehead. Adding a shade like this onto my forehead allows me to contour and shrink the visual appearance of this. And with this shade, I can add more balance to my skin without looking like it's going overboard. The bronzer, on the other hand, the Laura Geller Baked Bronze and Brighten and Fair, it's really beautiful. Once again, you have a mixture of this cool cocoa brown with a little bit of a redness to it. There is a pale pearly beige, and then you have this soft blue-based, slightly bubblegum pink shade. I like using that with a fluffy brush, and then right on the very back of my cheek, I can just very, very lightly add a little bit of that and just add a little bit of warmth. And I just feel like that makes my skin tone now look more cohesive, because now I feel like the tones between my face and my neck are balanced, which has been something I have struggled with for years. Something I have had trouble deciding what is my favorite, what is the thing I can't live without in my makeup routine. It's not really a surprise. I mean, if you know me, you know my love for makeup. I've talked about it and I feel like every video I've done. I love blush. I could have a collection with one foundation, one concealer, maybe 2 lipsticks, and then one of all of your other color complexion products, but I would have 20 blushes because that is just me. I love blush. Blush makes me happy, and I like tones that are very, very similar with subtle nuances and texture, finish, and undertone. I'm gonna share with you the ones I love this year and how I like to use them all together, because you also know I also love layering blushes. So the first one I really love is one that I would added to my collection in the second half of the year. This is the Bobbi Brown powder blush in the shade Sand Pink. When I first mentioned this blush, I mentioned how one of my really good friends, when we go out for dinner, her cheeks always look beautiful. They are the perfect flush of color. Her coloring is similar to mine, but her seasonal color palette is soft summer, so she is the more grayed, moody summer palette. With this shade, I like to use it on the back, and I completely overlap that bronzer and contouring I did, add that little bit of structure and rosiness to the back. What I really love about this shade is it's a really great tonal match for the darkest shade of my lip color, which you're thinking, why would you match your blush to your natural lip color? I like wearing my lips but better colors, and a shade like this helps to really keep things feeling cohesive. And I just find myself layering this blush until I am happy. I like to turn my face side to side, check it on the mirror, look straight ahead, see where I might want a little bit more. Then I move on to the next shade. L'Oreal True Match Super Blendable Blush. This is the shade C3-4 Tender Rose. Really beautiful, more cool toned mauve pink with a little bit of a light reflect. And with this one, I just go all on the cheek. I like to start slightly offset on the apple, more in line with the outer corner of the iris of my eye, and I work it right back to my temple at a slight incline. So we're not going at a straight 45. We are not going at a 90. It's kind of something right in between. What is that number? I don't know. I'm horrible at math. Math was not my best subject in school. And something about this color, it also helps to tie in this slightly kind of more blue-purple tone I have here at the top of my Cupid's bow, as well as these little spots right here. And then also here on the outer portion of my eyelid, if I don't kind of cover it and neutralize it, I get some of this similar tone here. So what I'm basically doing is using different blushes and different tones that I find occurring in my natural coloring to create this really hyper-realistic look that has a mix of different highs and lows and values in color to create this more dimensional effect. And we're getting a little bit more value out of the products that we have in your collection because we're layering 5 different colors. So you're getting to use up more of what you got. Next is one that I've had in my collection for over a year, and I just started really getting into it at the tail end of summer. This is the Dior Backstage Rosy Glow Blush in 001 Pink. This was really popular on TikTok. I love it so much. This is a cool pastel pink. It has a little bit more of a white base, and it has a translucency, and it has a very subtle pearl that helps this product not to look so stark Barbie pink on the cheek. You can build it up, but that translucency helps your natural skin tone shine through. And the way I like to use this is I'm just go from the inner corner of my eye to the outer corner of my eye, back and forth, and wiggle down to create this inverted triangle shape. And for me, that works really well because when I blush naturally, and you find this in a lot of paler skin tones, especially people with more of that kind of Irish or Scottish coloring that tend to have a little bit more ruddiness in the face. The blush tends to start here, goes out here, and then tapers down into here. It tends to be a little bit more of a ruddy flush. I like to mimic that, but using colors that aren't so ruddy. This is the poppiest of the shades I'm using. So we'll add a kind of plump, smooth, youthful effect to the center point of my face. And then to mimic, I take it right here on the forehead, but a very sheer amount because I don't want my forehead to be as pink as my cheeks. And then depending on the day, I like to finish my cheeks with a little pop of color, just something to help blend and meld my different colors together. I've got 2 different ones I use. I don't mix them because they're a little too similar to mix. It just depends on the mood. The first one is the Clinique Cheek Pop Pearl in the shade 06 Garnet Pop. And this is really beautiful. It is more of a muted ruby plum color. And I like this. It has a little bit of a pearl, but not too much. The one I'm gonna use today is the most recent addition to my collection. I picked this up back in August, if I'm not mistaken. This is the classic Clinique Cheek Pop Blush formula in the shade number 14, Heather Pop. This is a baked gelée formula, so you need to use a little bit of a stiffer brush. I like this rougher number 4, same brush I also used for contouring. And I just like to pick up a little bit, tap off my brush, and then use this to add that flush of color to the cheeks. It's almost like I'm drawing like a lightning bolt shape on the cheek, but I don't want it too precise. I want it to have this slightly erratic flush quality to it. And I'm thinking about that in my mind. Does that make sense? Probably not, but I very lightly like to mimic that there and here. Then I take my powder foundation brush and I lightly buff over this. And if you feel like you got a little too out of hand, you can always take a little bit more and buff over this. And sometimes I just do this even if I don't feel like I got too out of hand with it. I like to do this because since I'm adding a layer of my skin tone shade over the top, it just makes it feel a little bit more realistic. Like I'm taking all this time to apply the makeup and then using that skin tone shade to blend over it and create this like I'm not wearing makeup effect or a no makeup look. I don't do a ton of eyeshadow on an everyday basis, and I knew it was the product I wanted to use because it's the one that lives in my bathroom, and it's also the first thing that I put into my travel makeup bag when I'm going out because it's such a reliable product. But I was like, have I talked about this on my channel? And turns out I've talked about it in one video. So that makes me apprehensive, but it's also the product that lives in my bathroom that is like an essential for me. And it's just such a classic. This is the Urban Decay Naked 3, which was the only one of the 3 Naked palettes from their original launch that is still around. I hope they never get rid of it. More rosy tone palette and a little brush that comes in it. So good. What I like about this palette is I don't need a lot of color to create a look. And no matter which way you apply the colors, everything just feels so effortlessly cool. And the way I'm applying it now, just using the brush it comes with and the mirror and the palette, this is how I use it on an everyday basis. I only do like a little tap tap with my colors, tap it off, and that gives me just enough pigment for my everyday look. And then if I don't have a blending brush, I just use my finger to tap over everything. This for me is what I would do a lot. So all over my lid, I have the lightest shade called Strange, and then I have the shade Limit as a contour. When I want to play it up a little bit, I might mix colors. So colors I like to mix a lot are the shades Dust, Burnout, Buzz, and Liar. And when I say mix them, I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then tap off my brush and then just apply that all over the lid. And then I always like to go back with a little bit more of the shade Dust and apply that on the inner corner of the eye. And eyeshadow is done. I normally always like an eyeliner, and my favorite eyeliner of the year has been the McQueen New York Waterproof Pencil Gel Liner in shade 07 Heroin Aura. And I like this pencil. I never keep it super sharp because I just use this in my waterline. And the smear that comes in the little Chanel highlighter is so lovely. Something I really like about this Urban Decay palette is the brush that comes with. And if I ever get anything, like if I get a mascara smudge, I can use the stiffer side of the brush just to cover it up with a little bit of shimmer. For mascara, I loved pretty much the same mascara all year, which was the Roman Han All Fix mascara in the shade Long Ash. But I ran out of that, I threw the packaging away, and then I went to go repurchase it, and I remembered I had one in my backup drawer. This is another Korean brand called Mood, M-U-D-E, and it's the long curling mascara. I have shade Brown, and what I really love is this tiny little brush with a subtle spoon shape to it. And the color is a brown, but it's more of like a red violet brown. And for me, as someone with green eyes, this helps to really play up the richer blue perimeter I have on my iris, but it also pops the cool, slightly icy green tone that I have in the middle of my eyes. I don't know if you can see how that mascara looks on this side without. So it will hold my lashes up if I curl them, but I normally don't curl on an everyday basis. So I'm gonna push them up a little bit so you can kind of see how much length and definition it gives the lashes. And something I've loved, all of the Korean or K-beauty mascaras I've tried, they are so good. I've not experienced any of them smudging under my eyes, transferring the Roman mascara when it gets a little bit older. Sometimes if I tap under my eye, it will get a little smudgy, but I can clean that up very quickly. Then I don't have anything to worry about the rest of the day. This mascara, I've been using it for about a month and a half now, and I could not be happier with it. It is, if the color was more of that kind of mushroom gray color of the Roman, this mascara would be even better Oops. I'm normally not that messy when I apply mascara, but I guess I cannot talk and apply makeup at the same time. My lip pencil is the same thing I have loved for the last 10 plus years. That is the MAC lip pencil in the shade Dervish. This is like a My Lips but better lip pencil. It is described as a pinky mauve, and it has a little bit of a light reflect, which almost makes this pencil have like a slightly balmy or juicy look to the lips. And it's odd because this lip pencil formula, it's a little bit stiffer. That's why I always keep a little bit of lip balm on my lips and just go in with this pencil and buff over my lip color. You kind of see from the lower lip to the upper lip, it just helps to balance out those tonal colors in my lip. And this is where I leave it a lot of days. I might put a little bit more of my lip balm on, or even take a little bit more of my CeraVe healing ointment and apply it, and that is my lip look for the day. But when I want something to last a little bit longer, I will apply another K-Beauty favorite. This is from the brand 3CE, and this is one of their water tints in the shade Double Wind. And I honestly don't know where to tell someone to start. If you want to try K-Beauty and you only want to try one product, I am torn between mascara and the lip tints. Here is the color only on the lower lip. My Lips but better, My Lips but rosier. It makes me so happy. Now, I do love gloss. I love a good lip gloss. And another product I've loved from NYX this year is This Is Milky Gloss in the shade Ube Milkshake. This is almost like a periwinkle purple with a little bit of a muted gray quality to it. And just adding that little bit of that cool muted color to the lip color that we applied that was a little bit rosier, it just creates this really kind of cool lip that I like wearing, and it's so comfortable to wear. Wow. That was a very kind of like chatty video, but there was so much to say, so much to share, and the makeup really helped to accentuate and enhance the video because it's everything I love this year. It's stuff that you've seen me use on my channel, or it's stuff like this Urban Decay palette and the Chanel highlighter that live in my bathroom, live in my travel bags, because they are easy products to throw on an everyday basis that I don't have to think about, and they just always look good. And I cannot begin to thank all of you enough for not only subscribing, but for becoming friends, for making this YouTube community grow into something that is so special, so close to my heart, for enjoying the videos I put out. And when I see videos where people thank me for the way I teach, it means so much to me, because I've said in other videos that I've always wanted to be a teacher, and being able to teach is something that I feel so thankful for. And I just feel so thankful for all of you for helping my channel to reach 1,000 subscribers, because when I'm recording this video, we just hit 1,010 subscribers. It's just something I never thought was coming. I mean, I've seen the subscriber numbers go up, but I didn't think we would be at 1,000 subscribers so soon. And it really floors me with excitement and happiness and gratitude. So thank you all for being the ultimate favorite of 2022. Thank you for your warm, encouraging, supportive messages. Thank you for just being there, for taking the time out of your day to watch my videos, for interacting, and just for being you. Thank you for being there. And I cannot wait to spend next year and the coming years with all of you, and I cannot wait to see how this community grows, what this YouTube journey has in store. I think it's going to be so exciting. I hope you're taking care of yourself. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. I will see you all next year. Bye, y'all.